We didn't know that we were going to be in the program. So who remembers the first time they rode the T?
45 cents?
So I'm hoping that your experience wasn't as scary as mine was the first time.
Yes.
It was? Well, let's see. So, summer of 2002, I was an undergrad, and I was here in Boston for the first time for a summer program with the Harvard School of Public Health. And our time was mostly committed, but on the weekends we had a lot of free time. So, one day, people said we should go to the mall. Let's go to the mall. And so I said, okay, great. And so, you know, I'm a, you know, I guess I'm considered a country kid, a military brat. I had never really been to a big city. I guess at that time I considered Boston to be a big city. I'd been to Atlanta, but never Boston. And so the idea of going out into the world was one that was interesting until we got to the T station. So there were a group of us, about 8, 10 of us, and everyone was from out of town. And so the guy's like, okay, we're gonna go to the mall. So we're walking to the T station, and we get there, and I'm looking. So there's the side that you get on, and there's another side that you get on. I said, okay, I don't really know what to do here, but that's okay. And then I look at the sign. There's the sign. There's all these dots, all these colors, all these names of places that I don't know, and I'm thinking, I still don't really know what to do here. And there's a guy that's with us, and he's from out of town also. And so he's clearly the ringleader. I said, okay. So he walks up to the sign. He says, okay, so we want to go to Copley, so we're going to take the train inbound. Yeah, I think so. What do you mean you think so? You better be sure you're going to have me lost in Boston. What's a Copley anyway? I thought we were going to the mall, right? We're going to the mall, right? I said, you know what? I'm good. I'll just go back to the room. I think there's a tennis match on or something that I can watch there. You guys can take it from there. I hear off in the distance, ding, 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 ding. Train's coming. And by this time, I can see it. And everybody's getting ready to get on the train. And so I'm still backing up at that time. You know, I have that, you know, uncomfortable feeling that you have in your stomach, like kind of like the one that you have when you're about to give a speech. And so everybody's getting ready to get on the train. Train stops, shh, door opens. And people are rushing off and people are rushing on. And then I was like, you know what? Am I going to be that guy, the guy that people said was too scared to get on the train? The guy who went back to the room and missed out on all the fun. That day, I don't think I was ready to be that guy. So I said, fine, whatever, I'm just going to get on the train. So I get on the train. Make my way onto the train. I can't sit down, standing like this, holding onto a rail. It smells weird. And then we advance to one stop. And so people file off the train. And finally, I'm able to sit down. And so, okay, all right, okay. It's not bad yet. I'm looking up. I say, oh, look, okay, here's the diagram. And so by that time, I think we were at the Museum of Fine Arts stop. And I was like, okay, wait, we got on at Longwood, and that says Museum of Fine Arts. And so if I'm right about this, if I got this right, the next stop should be Northeastern. Because down the line it says Copley. I think the guy said we were going to Copley anyway. I guess that's where the mall is. And so lo and behold, we go one stop, and we get there. Not to Copley, but to the next stop, and I was like, yes! I figured it out. I figured out the train. So I'm sitting there, and I'm laughing the whole time because, you mean I was going to go watch tennis because I was scared that I couldn't figure out how to use the train? Are you kidding me? Really? Really? And so in that moment, I realized, well, later I realized that riding a T is a lot like, it's having a destination in mind and not being very clear about what that process is going to be for getting there, what the stops will be along the way, how you're going to get there. And because of that's a kind of uncertainty that we all have to deal with. And so that uncertainty creates doubt, fear, causes you to think about avoiding that situation altogether. What's the fear doing in your life? Is it driving you to your destination? Or is it causing you to sit and wait and think about going back home? How's everybody doing tonight? You guys okay? You can say hi. You find it. If you need more food, you can get some. I'm not gonna be distracted at all. I want to thank Danny Tao. He actually sent me a message a little while ago saying good luck. So that's a good guy. I like running into him on Sunday. So I'll see him on Sunday, and I'll be sure to thank him in person. I also want to thank Suzanne. Where'd you go? There you are. So Suzanne, I think we should clap for Suzanne if we can. And I'm especially grateful to you for, you and to Danny, for the input that you provided to me to make this all happen here tonight. And I'll say a little bit more about that later. But because of that, I'm here and I'm excited. I get to talk to you all tonight. I have 3 objectives tonight. The first one is to encourage you. The first one, encourage you that if there is something that you still want at this stage in your life, at this place in time, that it's still possible for you. That if there's been things that you've wanted that you, for whatever reason, haven't been able to achieve, been too afraid, been knocked off course, that it's still possible. The second thing is, I'm here to educate you. Tell you about a process that you can use to get past any obstacle in your life if there's a goal that you have. I think of it as a skeleton key. Anybody know what a skeleton key is? It's that key that you can use that opens any door in the house. This is a process that you can use, and you could use it at any time to move past an obstacle that's in your way. And the last thing I'm here to do tonight is to entertain you. But I don't mean in the traditional sense. I mean, I'm not a great singer, so you probably don't want to hear that. And I may have a joke or two, but I mean to take captive your imagination, to help you see yourself in a way that you might not have been able to see before, to see the part of you that's hard to see and to recognize. So with your permission, I'd like to do those 3 things tonight. Encourage you, educate you, entertain you. That's okay? I'm glad you guys said yes, because I was going to do it anyway. For 25 to 30 hours a week, I sit in front of people who have some kind of anxiety, some kind of fear or worry that has them stifled, has them frozen, from fear of social situations to obsessive worry to compulsive behaviors to full-on panic attacks. And what I love the most about treating this population is that the results are very objective. If a person is able to do something that they haven't been able to do before because that fear has been in their way, then you know that a change is taking place if they're able to do something different. But what I love most about treating that population is that it keeps me grounded and very close to the anxieties that I have. Do I get nervous? Yes. Do I let fear get in my way? Oh, absolutely. Do I have doubts? Sure. But I think the difference is that I have found a way to get past those obstacles, to get past those fears, so that if I'm hesitating, it doesn't last very long. Doesn't last long at all. And I know where to look for it in my fears. It's like they're taunting me sometimes, like, hey, you can do that, but I know you're not going to because you're too scared. You're too scared of failing, or actually maybe you're scared of being successful, afraid of what's going to be required of you when you reach that point. What I'm here to say tonight to you is that the biggest obstacle that you're going to face is your own fear. Your beliefs about the situation that are blocking you from where you want to get to. So if there's something that you've been dying to do that's, I won't call it a bucket list, but we'll just say it's on the list of things that you've always wanted to do that for whatever reason you've been stuck, you've been knocked off course, that it's still possible. Any brave souls in here tonight? Anybody willing to say out loud what that is for them? I'm not gonna ask you, how you feel about it and all that kind of stuff like a therapist would. This is the crowd participation part of the evening. So, anybody bold enough to say it? Something that you wanted to do that you haven't been able to do. It's on your list.
I'm not ready to answer, but I'll tell you 3 out of the 4 pictures up there have to do with technology.
Raised $8 million. Now, when he said $8 million earlier, I said, "Woo!" I felt that one. If I was in your shoes, I might be stumbling too. But I got good news for you tonight. There's a way to move past those obstacles that lead to you stumbling and fumbling and doubting whether you can still achieve that goal. Before we do that, there's something we got to talk about first. All fear is not created equal, okay? So I make a distinction between worry and fear, and the difference mainly being in its orientation to time and its intensity. So worry is something that tends to be more focused on the future, and the intensity, the effect that you feel of it emotionally may not be very much because it's distant, it's off in the future. Fear, on the other hand, is much more present. It's likely that you might experience a very intense physiological response to fear. Like if a bear walked through that door, a bear walked through that door, I might be frozen. Well, actually, I probably wouldn't freeze. I'd probably run that way. But if a bear walked up behind me, I might be too afraid to move. Bears are fast. Fear and worry. Then we have irrational beliefs and rational beliefs. So if we define that a little bit, irrational beliefs are beliefs and emotions in a given situation that are not based on logic or reason. And there's a tendency for irrational beliefs to leave out key pieces of information that will cause that irrational belief to remain irrational. Let me give you an example. I was talking to a woman who said, she was in her 40s and 50s, and she said, "I really want to change careers, but I believe I'll be miserable because I won't be good in my new career." Now, I didn't tell her that she was being irrational, probably for lots of reasons, but I didn't tell her that. The idea that you will be miserable in a new career, is that based on sound logic? I mean, are you good in your career now? If the answer is no, well, then I can see where she'd be coming from. But if you are good in your career now, is it possible that if you did the same thing that you did to get good in this career, in the new career, that you'd be good? Thereby not being miserable. Information is left out. When we talk about rational beliefs, we're talking about beliefs and emotions about a situation that are based on reason and logic. I got to bring those bears up again. It's probably not a good idea to jump in a bear pit. Because bears eat people, right? Well, I mean, we've heard news stories about it, and it happened in a movie once, and they're big and they're fast, and it's possible that they could eat you. Now, if anyone wants to test that, I hope for your sake that you wouldn't try to test that to prove me wrong. Don't jump in a bear pit. So you see we have irrational beliefs and rational beliefs. And those affect the actions that you take towards reaching your goal. When I first started out in private practice, about a little over 2 years ago, I was coming off of the biggest failure that I had experienced up until this point in my life. I still consider it the biggest failure. This was back when I wanted to be a trader. And so I was a psychologist, but also interested in the markets. You know, I would wake up in the morning, first thought, what's happening in the markets? What's happening in the S&P 500? And so I'd been interested in the markets for a good 7 years before that. But in the last 2 years, I started to get serious and started to learn that, okay, there's lots of different ways that you can function in the markets. You can use this strategy, you can use that strategy. And so I decided that this is something that I wanted to pursue. So I created a strategy, I did some testing, wrote out a plan, gave it to my wife. I said, hey, babe, this is what I want to do. And she said, okay, fine. I seen your plan, go do it. So I get the money in the account, open up the platform, the market conditions are ready for the strategy that I'm going to trade. I click the button, and something happened that didn't happen during testing. The trade got filled instantly. Now, usually, you know, the order could go instantly, but usually it hangs around a little bit, and you know, different exchanges will see which ones that they want to take. But this one got filled instantly, and I got the idea that there were the guys were like, hey, look at this guy, look at this rookie, look at this trade he's about to put on. You see this trade? Hey, go take the other side. Let's take him out. Well, that's what it felt like. When I put the trade on, instantly showed a loss. Now that wasn't out of the ordinary because you know you can put on a trade and it'll show a loss and it will remain a loss until you close it. But this one stayed a loss. And for 4 straight weeks, took a beating. With the exception of a few days, every week the account was going boop, 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 boop. And I'm starting to panic. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. 4 weeks, 5 figures, gone. How can anybody lose money this fast? I'm freaking out. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Why did I even put on that trade? I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid. Oh my God, I'm losing all this money. Okay. The pain got so bad that I had to just shut it down. I had to close all these positions, get out, so pull your money out now. So I go home, I tell my wife, I said, hey babe, this is what happened. And she knew something was off because for 4 weeks now, I wasn't my bubbly, the guy I am tonight. That wasn't me. I was coming in, not saying much. She knew something. She knew it. She knew it. Oh, I couldn't hide it if I put on a costume. So I told her about this, and I was devastated. I wanted to crawl up in a little ball and get in the corner and not even come out, never come out, stay there forever. Some other things were happening at the time. I wasn't happy at work. I was putting in a lot of hours and not much to show for it. My daughter Lizzie was born then, and you know how newborns are. They're up late at night, and I was coming in late at night, exhausted, taking a beating in the market, not happy at work. My wife was exhausted. I couldn't just come in and go to sleep. It was not a good time. And before this whole trading thing happened, my wife and I had talked about, hey, we see where this is going. Like maybe you should do something different. Maybe you should, do your own private practice. And I was like, okay, yeah, that would be a good idea. Possibly. But I wasn't doing anything to get that going. Dragging my feet, not filing paperwork, not making marketing plans. And she saw this whole thing happening, and she said to me, how long have you been doing this? Well, she was talking about the therapy thing. She saw how long my moping had gone on. How long have you been doing this? You know a lot about this industry. What's holding you back? And it's like It's like I had never heard those questions before. Like I had never considered that I had been working in this industry for a very long time. I was doing a great job at work. I was getting a feel for how the industry worked. She said that to me, and I said, you know what? That's right. So she said that to me. That led to some changes. I had a few friends who had just started private practice and some who had been in it for a little while, and so I started talking to them. And somebody gave me a list of every single step I needed to complete in order to get started. And then she said, it's just do this, 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 and this, and you're all set. I said, it's that easy? Really? I said, okay, fine. Let's see. So, started filing paperwork, approved. Got an insurance panel, approved. Found an office space, deposit set. Started taking action. Things started happening. I put out an ad to advertise for the practice. And within 2 days of placing the ad, I got 2 phone calls of people who wanted to start. I said, whoa, hey guys, listen, I'm not actually open for another 4 weeks. And so they said, oh, no, that's fine. I'll see you in a month. I was dragging my feet because I believe that because I failed so spectacularly as a trader, I was going to fail in private practice. I wasn't taking any action. And so when I started taking action, it was really hard to believe. I found it much harder to believe that I was going to fail in private practice. You ever had that happen to you? God starts opening up doors for you. And everything you thought was going to happen doesn't. It changes you. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you function. That's what happened to me. Here I am, going strong. No plans of quitting. Wanted to show you this. So this is a way to think about your situations. And it's based on cognitive behavioral theory. And this is the primary intervention that I use for treating anxiety. And I also treat other things, but mostly anxiety. And so there's a few things for you to note here in this diagram. So beliefs affect your emotions, which affect your behavior. And these arrows are double-sided, which means that they bounce off of each other. Everything affects everything. And so according to theory, if these are all bouncing off of each other, they all function and happen in a predictable pattern. And if you change one of these, then you can change the way the entire process, the way you experience the beliefs, the behaviors, and the emotions. I believed I would fail in private practice because I failed as a trader. Got some new ideas like, hey, you actually know a lot about this industry already. Oh, look, here's a checklist. All you have to do is go down the checklist, put out an ad, people start calling you. It's hard to continue to believe that. I was fortunate to get a double dose of the intervention. The premise behind this intervention is that what you believe affects your emotional experience. And the goal is to change how you believe. Well, change what you believe. And so you can change beliefs by challenging them, challenging the assumptions, looking to see what's rational and what's irrational and testing it against evidence. And then on the behavior side, if you perform a different behavior, you're likely to get a different emotion and a new belief. I'll give you a different example. You want to open a bakery. Someone out there wants to open a bakery. If that's you, give me your card. I have a cookie problem. I need your help. I will keep your business afloat. Give me your card afterwards. But if you want to open a bakery and it's not happening, you're not taking any actions, then likely what you believe or what you're doing is part of the problem. Ultimately, what you believe is the problem, What might you believe? Well, it might be too risky and I might fail, which would lead to you feeling sad, discouraged, and unfulfilled, and lead to you avoiding. Just talking about it. You know how they say, don't talk about it, be about it. You talk about it, but not do anything to be about it. No action. And so here we'd want to challenge those beliefs and have you perform different behaviors. Refine your recipes. Figure out how you're going to mass produce. How are you going to make all these cookies for me? To change this belief about it being too risky and that you might fail. So from this basic methodology, I've put together a way to think about those areas of the triangle. And this is what you can use to move past any obstacle. This idea is based on the premise that identifying certain things will allow you to have access to the things that are blocking you. Your wants, your worries, your wrong thoughts, what can I do and what actually happened. Now, you'll notice that everything starts with W, and so I was trying to come up with a fancy name for it, and I was going to call it something like the 5W Blitz. I thought that was lame, so I didn't pick that one. So if you're good at naming things, I'll gladly accept your recommendations and give you all the credit for it. What is it that you want? Or what is it that you're trying to do? When do you want to have it completed? These are all the questions that you would ask yourself. If you're looking at your behavior, there's a goal, there's something that you have in your mind and your heart that God's given you, and it's not getting done. This is where you start. How will you know when you've done it? Now, I say this is for goals that are less specific. These are for goals that are more states of being. I want to be happy. Well, what does that look like? I want to be healthy. Okay, what does that look like? Is it the number on the scale? Is it, your blood pressure? I want to be wealthy. Is that a number in your bank account? That's defining what it is that you want. What do you find yourself doing instead? I know what I was doing. Kicking my feet around and licking my wounds and feeling sorry for myself. The worries. So this is where you identify the idea, the belief that's getting in the way. And challenging wrong thoughts is part of the intervention. So what is the worst thing that will happen if you work on your goal? How likely is it that the worst thing will happen? Is this rational? Is the question that you want to answer. And if it's rational, what must be done to make it less likely to happen? You would avoid the bear pit. If it's irrational, what are the chances that if it happens, if it is irrational, what are the chances that it happens? And is there another way to think about it? What can I do? This is the behavior change part. What can I do to reduce the likelihood that those beliefs are true? Is there something different that I can do? Can I test and see? What happens when you put out that ad? What happens when you refine your recipes and start making lots of cookies and biscuits? What happens? What do I need to do differently? And then the last step is looking at what happened. This is the outcome. This is your evaluation after you've engaged in the belief change and the behavior change. So I put together this little grid. This is just a different way the information is displayed. And this is something like I would use in therapy to challenge thoughts. So you would put in each column what that specific item is. And in some ways, this could function as a journal for you. You would find that the things that you want, you might have certain worries and challenges that help you move forward. And if you keep tracking this over time, you'll see the patterns. You won't have to go through this process every single time. You can just skip to the end. Like, if that's what the worry is, here's the challenge, here's what I can do. Because again, from that diagram, it exists in a predictable pattern. And as long as you're aware of it, you have an opportunity to do something different, to get to a different outcome. when I find myself stumbling, this is the process that I use. This is the process I use for this speech tonight. About at the beginning of summer, my wife came up to me. My wife has all these ideas. I love her. She's got great ideas, actually, because she can see things before I see them. And so she'll give me an idea, and I'm just not ready for it. And then months later, I'll say, you know what? It was a good idea. Husbands, just do what your wife tells you to do. Your life. This is not a yes dear situation. This is she can see what you can't see. She wants the best for you. Listen to her. Your life will be better. It'll be great. Mine is. But anyway, she says, Marshaun, you know what? You have all of these ideas. You've got lots of information. You should become a speaker. And at that point, at the time that she told me that, it wasn't like I had never considered it. You know, I thought about it, thought it would be a cool idea. I had my reservations about it. You know, all speakers do is just speak. And everybody says the same thing over and over and over again. And so those are the beliefs that I had, but I was intrigued somewhat. So I was lukewarm about the idea, but I performed some actions. I started to put some things together. I did a little bit of research, and it's like, how do you put together a good speech? 2 weeks after she told me this, after she gave me this suggestion, and I started to do a few things, I get this email, this random email out of nowhere. This guy is looking for a speaker. I said, oh, look at that, God. I hear you. So I'm going back and forth with this guy, and he's telling me about the audience, and we're talking about fees and contract and all that kind of stuff. And that set the ball in motion. So I started putting together some materials. I drafted a contract. I started to lay out a web page and started to get a little bit serious about it. And he calls me back and says, hey, we decided to go with someone else. And as I would say, I was slightly disappointed. That didn't take the sting out of me, though. I still believed that it was possible for me to be a speaker. But one thing did not change. Can anybody guess? I didn't do anything different. I just kind of went back to what I was doing. Ever happen to anybody, like, God opens this door for you, or, something happens that you don't expect, and you get your hopes up and say, yes, God, I hear you, I'm going to do it. And it gets taken away, and it's like, okay, well, I guess it really wasn't meant to be. Doo-ba-doo. So I went back to what I was doing, looking at speeches here and there, not really taking it serious. It was just kind of in the back of my mind, like on the back burner, not really going after it. A few months go by, sitting at my desk, waiting on, I had another appointment coming in a little bit, and I get this email from Danny. And he says, hey, Marshaun, Danny, right? This is his energy. Hey, Marshaun, we have this event on October 12th. You want to be the speaker? And I was like, heck yeah! I said, your timing is divine. It was on the back burner. I wasn't even thinking about it too much. It was in my head. I said, yeah, I'll do it. Heck yeah. You better believe this time, I wasn't going to drag any feet. I was going after it. So, I'm doing my research. I'm putting together materials. I got serious about that webpage. I let people look at it, say, give me the most critical feedback that you give me about this webpage. And people were brutal. I think another thing that worried me about being a speaker is how, some speakers get attacked by people. These internet trolls, like they will go on for pages about how awful this speaker is and how what they have to say doesn't make any sense. And so I said, well, listen, if I'm going to do this, this is the testing ground. Give it to me. Give it to me. It wasn't bad at all. I was like, oh, yeah, I did kind of mess that page up. I'll go back and fix that. Thank you. So I said I would do the speech, and I'm sitting down at my desk. I was like, okay, I'm going to do a speech. Yay! And then I felt it again. That feeling, like that feeling that, like when you're going to actually give a speech. It's all that bumblebee, uncomfortable, like I have to go to use bathroom feeling, And so I said, okay, let me just get out of the office for a second. So I get up, leave the office, go for a walk. I think I went out to get some lunch. And I come back to the office, I sit down at my desk. And then there was just this calm that came over me. Like the kind of calm that only God can bring. It was a kind of calm that caused me to slow down and kind of feel a little giddy. Like I was starting to laugh a little bit. Like, and then these ideas start popping into my head. He said, hey, you, the anxiety guy, aren't you supposed to be the expert here? You're freaking out? And that's what made me laugh. It's like, oh, yeah, me, that guy. And so if I'm going to be about what I try to help other people with, then surely it can help me. So what did I do? I made my own diagram. This is my 5W Blitz. Again, the name needs work, so just work with me, please. What did I want? To give a great speech. I guess I could have, said in there, be a great speaker, but I just decided to focus on tonight because that's what I was, that's what all those uncomfortable feelings in the belly right here were about tonight. 5 weeks ago. Remember what I said? Worry, fear. That was worry. It was 5 weeks ago. It was uncomfortable then. What do I want to do? Give a great speech. What were my worries? I won't deliver a message that at least half of the audience finds valuable. My message will be confusing, and my message will be uninspiring. That's what I was worried about. Now, were those rational or irrational? I don't know. The challenges to those wrong thoughts. First, I went to Matthew 33. You know how I go? Say it with me. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all his righteousness, and all these things be added unto you. And then there's this verse right after. I've read it before, but I was like, like when you read the Bible, that something just pops out that's been there the whole time, and that's exactly what you need. 34. Don't worry. So this is the I think of the NIV version, and I just gave you half of it. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. So by this point, I'm way past giddy. I'm chuckling, almost tipping the chair over laughing. God said, I got some more for you. You've given 2 best man speeches that moved people to tears. Like in the last year. My brother and my best friend. I said, okay, what else you got? In college, my graduate advisor, after I did my master's thesis defense, he said, well, I don't ever really have to worry about you giving a speech or a presentation in a room because you've got presence, man. He said that in, 2007, 10 years ago. It's like, okay, what else you got? Oh, and you can't remember your performance background. Now, I'm not trying to say that this is a performance per se, but I was in the marching band for 8 years, high school, college, and 3 of those 8 years I was drum major. You might know the drum majors, the guy with that big tall hat and, the baton that's like up to here and he comes in like this, and you're the first person that scene? The show doesn't start until you blow the whistle. You can't mess that up. There's thousands of people. You can't mess that up. You cannot afford to buckle in that situation because you've got your band behind you waiting on you. There was no buckling in 8 years. When I marched my instrument, when I was carrying the baton, never happened. It's like the people, it's like I didn't see the people. I saw the turf. I saw the other drum majors. I saw the horns. These ideas came into my head to challenge these. So I've got new ideas, I got challenges, these worries, how much I believe these things. How can you start to believe them when you've got evidence? It changes you. What can I do? This is where Suzanne and Danny come in. So I'm asking them, I said, hey, tell me about the audience. I don't know what to say here. I mean, I'm an anxiety guy, but you can't just tell people, hey, I'm going to help you work on your fear. They're not going to come. Nobody wants to talk about that. So I'm asking them, tell me about the audience. What's the best thing to say? They're giving me feedback on titles, and this is, I know a lot about you guys. I know where you live, where you work, what cars you drive. I don't know any of that stuff. I know enough. But I wasn't sure. So I asked. I got feedback. And when people are telling you what you need to do, when people give you the checklist to go through, what's going to happen to that worry? Then I did some research on similar audiences, speeches given to similar audiences, and looked at examples of best speakers. Now, we don't know what's going to happen here. Speech isn't over. You haven't told me whether you love it or you hate it. But if I'm going to do this, I need to be ready for the brutal feedback. I give you permission. So I've given speeches before, given presentations, given best man speeches, but this is the first one that I've given since deciding this is something that I was going to do. That this would be a way for me to help people with the knowledge that I have, the passion that I have, to help them get past the blocks in their life. This is what I decided. This is the first one. And so if you know anybody, agencies, organizations, groups, they need to hear this message or similar messages, give me your card afterwards. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to them. And we'll see what that TBT column, what that outcome column looks like. So I'll talk to you about the strategies. I've told you my story. Hopefully I've encouraged you, educated you, and entertained you. But now, you have a choice to make. Everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes right now. Everybody close your eyes. I want you to imagine that thing that you've been wanting to do the longest time, that thing that's on your list. Just get it in your mind right now. See yourself doing it. See what it's like if you're actually in that space. If you want to be healthy, see yourself looking down at the scale. See how those clothes are fitting different. See how you're so excited that you don't have to go and buy new clothes because the clothes that you couldn't fit anymore fit now. See yourself making those cookies and me walking into your shop, buying trays of them. Can you see it? Can you see the people reaching out to help you, giving you the feedback? Can you see those fears, those doubts? The doubts are on the ropes. How can you continue to see it the same way? When you've got new ideas coming in, when you've got new things happening. Do you see it? That's what it looks like. Can you feel it? That's what it feels like. Now, I want you to visualize, keep your eyes closed, I want you to visualize yourself busting through that obstacle, that thing that's been keeping you stuck for years. If it's not years, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's months. Figuring out how to solve that problem. Feel that. The moment you get the keys to your new office, that you're going to run your nonprofit or your for-profit, whatever. Feel the keys in your hand. Feel the sound of them jingling around in your pocket as you walk down the hall. You can open your eyes now. What is the fear doing in your life? Is it driving you to your destination? Or is it causing you to sit and think about going back home? Thank you for having me here tonight. I left you something in front of you. It's a way for you to be reminded of the 5 W Blitz, right? And again, if you've got ideas about what to call that, then let me know. But the grid at the bottom, you can take that and make it your own. I left it on there as a reminder for you to, when you see yourself, when you notice that you're not making any progress there, pop that card out, put it in your briefcase, put it in your purse, or whatever it is you use to carry things around in. Thanks again, everybody.
Dr. Glover, where's your practice?
So I'm downtown Boston on Water Street. It's 112 Water Street. It's, in that Faneuil Hall area. So the cross streets are Broad and State. There's parking on the street and lots of different, on lots of different streets. Harder at different times of the day, but it's T accessible. And there's a parking garage. Parking can be expensive in those garages, but it's doable.
What ages do you work with?
So starting with the youngest, I treat mostly adolescents and up, but from time to time I'll treat someone who's younger than 16. So probably wouldn't go as young as 8. So I would say between 8 and older.
Dr. Glover, what were you doing before you decided to make the switch to treating children and adolescents?
Well, so I've been treating children and adolescents since graduate school. That was the area of focus that I had, and so there really hasn't been a switch. I guess what I would say is, if there has been any switch, that I mostly treat adults now because it's easier to fill the schedule with adults. They'll come in after work and sometimes during the day, and kids usually come in right in that after school hour. Well, those few hours, but that's just how to fill the schedule.
Have you noticed over time, since you've been practicing, that there are more anxieties or a new type of anxiety that's happening now? Like, I know, like I didn't grow up with texting and messaging people. Like, we had full-out arguments with people. Now I've seen I've seen people have an argument like this. So I'm just like, is there maybe with even the younger people, is there different types of anxieties or more anxieties with people our age, go?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think, for the amount of time that I've been doing this, the anxieties differ by age. And so, what you would find, to be the primary anxiety problem for a child is going to be different for, someone who's in the middle adulthood. But, if I compare cases across time, I wouldn't say that there are new anxieties. I think that that technology and, social media have, provided more situations for people to experience conflict and anxiety. So anxiety hasn't changed per se the way people experience it. The situations that make them anxious have been a little bit more, I would say a little bit more nuanced because of the, social media and texting and all those kinds of things.
I think in terms of when you talk about wants, I guess I have this question of discernment of wants.
Mm-hmm.
How does this person know, as a Christian, what are your wants and what are God's wants for you?
Mm-hmm.
That whole continuous process of discernment.
Yeah, I think that's always the question, the age-old question. I think most people would say that there's probably some anxiety around that. How do anxiety? So more so the anxiety about getting that part right, because I don't want to be out of the will of God, and most people don't. Most Christians don't, and so what I found for me is the confirmation comes when the same thing keeps popping up, and popping up. I haven't, I've kind of, what's the best way to answer this? I know that I was sent here to help people because of what my mom told me when I was in the 8th grade. She said, Marshaun, I don't think she really knew what a psychologist was at the time, but she said, you should be a psychologist because you seem to be interested in people. And so she would tell me about, when I was 2, I was walking up to strangers and saying hi. And I was a very social person social kid and asking questions about, like, what are people doing and what are people feeling? What kind of 6-year-old asks you how you feel? And so that stayed with me, throughout all of my years. And, all of these opportunities kept coming my way and say, God, if you're going to put these in my path so that I can't dodge them, I mean, again, like I was trying to be a traitor. You see how that happened? See what happened with that? There are days that I pray and say, God, maybe that was just a fluke. Maybe that's not off the table forever. But that's a question I ask. And I know I can't go there until that's answered. But I know this thing that my mom told me when I was 8 hasn't changed. So the thing that keeps coming, I think, for me, that has helped me to be clear about what that want is and have the confidence that that's consistent with what he wants from me. Does that answer your question? Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad those were questions that I can answer because I spent all my time preparing for the speech.
Thank you, Dr. Glover.
Thank you.